Mr. Trump, your comments about banning Muslims from entering the country created a firestorm. According to Facebook, it was the most talked about moment online of your entire campaign, with more than 10 million people talking about the issue. Is there anything you've heard that makes you want to rethink this position?
No. No. Look, we have to stop with political correctness. We have to get down to creating a country that's not going to have the kind of problems that we've had with people flying planes into the World Trade Centers, with the shootings in California, with all the problems all over the world. I just left Indonesia, bomb, 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 bomb. We have to find out what's going on. I said temporarily. I didn't say permanently. I said temporarily. And I have many great Muslim friends. And some of them, I will say not all, have called me and said, Donald, thank you very much. You're exposing an unbelievable problem, and we have to get to the bottom of it. And unlike President Obama, where he refuses even to use the term of what's going on, he can't use the term for whatever reason. And if you can't use the term, you're never going to solve the problem. My Muslim friends, some, said, thank you very much. We'll get to the bottom of it. But we have a serious problem. And we can't be the stupid country anymore. We're laughed at all over the world.
Donald, I hope you reconsider this, because this policy is a policy that makes it impossible to build the coalition necessary to take out ISIS. The Kurds are our strongest allies. They're Muslim. You're not going to even allow them to come to our country? The other Arab countries have a role to play in this. We cannot be the world's policeman. We can't do this unilaterally. We have to do this in unison with the Arab world. And sending that signal makes it impossible for us to be serious about taking out ISIS and restoring democracy in Syria. So I hope you'll reconsider. I hope you'll reconsider. The better way of dealing with this is recognizing that there are people in the Islamic terrorists inside, embedded in refugee populations. What we ought to do is tighten up our efforts to deal with the entry visa program, so that a citizen from Europe, it's harder if they've been traveling to Syria or traveling these other places where there is Islamic terrorism, make it harder, make the screening take place. We don't have to have refugees come to our country, but all Muslims? Seriously? What kind of signal does that send to the rest of the world that the United States is a serious player in creating peace and security?
You said that he made those comments and they represented him being unhinged, yet after he made them...
Yeah, they are unhinged.
Well, after he made them, his poll numbers went up 8 points in South Carolina. Now, wait.
11 points to be exact.
Are you saying that all those people who agree with Mr. Trump are unhinged?
No, not at all. Absolutely not. I can see why people are angry and scared, because this president has created a condition where our national security has weakened dramatically. I totally get that. But we're running for presidency of the United States here. This isn't, a different kind of job. You have to lead. You cannot make rash statements and expect the rest of the world to respond as though, well, it's just politics. Every time we send signals like this, we send a signal of weakness, not strength. And so it was an unhinged statement, which is why I'm asking him to consider changing his views.
I want security for this country, okay? I want security. I'm tired of seeing what's going on between the border, where the people flow over, people come in, they live, they shoot. I want security for this country. We have a serious problem with, as you know, with radical Islam. We have a tremendous problem. It's not only a problem here, it's a problem all over the world. I want to find out why those two young people, those two horrible young people in California, when they shot the 14 people, killed them, people they knew, people that held a wedding reception for them. I want to find out, many people saw pipe bombs and all sorts of things all over their apartment. Why weren't they vigilant? Why didn't they call? Why didn't they call the police? And by the way, the police are the most mistreated people in this country. I will tell you that. The most mistreated people.
But can I say,
wait a minute, vigilance. We have to find out. Many people knew about what was going on. Why didn't they turn those 2 people in so that you wouldn't have had all the death? There's something going on, and it's bad. And I'm saying we have to get to the bottom of it. That's all I'm saying. We need security.
We want to hear from all of you on this. According to Pew Research, the U.S. admits more than 100,000 Muslim immigrants every single year on a permanent lifetime basis. I want to ask the rest of you to comment on this. Do you agree that we should pause Muslim immigration until we get a better handle on our homeland security situation, as Mr. Trump has said, beginning with you, Governor Kasich?
No, I've been for pausing on admitting the Syrian refugees. And the reason why I've done is I don't believe we have a good process of being able to vet them. But, you know, we don't want to put everybody in the same category. And, you know, I'll go back to something that had been mentioned just a few minutes ago. If we're going to have a coalition, we're going to have a coalition not just of people in the western part of the world, our European allies, but we need the Saudis, we need the Egyptians, we need the Jordanians, we need the Gulf states, we need Jordan. We need all of them to be part of exactly what the first George Bush put together in the first Gulf War. It was a coalition made up of Arabs and Americans and Westerners, and we're going to need it again. And if we try to put everybody in the same, call everybody the same thing, we can't do it. And that's just not acceptable. But I think a pause on Syrian refugees has been exactly right for all the governors that have called for it, and also, of course, for me as the governor of Ohio.
Thank you, sir. We want to hear from the rest of you. Governor Christie, your take.
Now, Maria, listen, I said right from the beginning that we should take no Syrian refugees of any kind. And the reason I said that is because the FBI director told the American people, told Congress, that he could not guarantee he could vet them and it would be safe. That's the end of the conversation. I can tell you, after spending 7 years as a former federal prosecutor, right after 9/11, dealing with this issue, here's the way you need to deal with it. You can't just ban all Muslims. You have to ban radical Islamic jihadists. You have to ban the people who are trying to hurt us. And the only way to figure that out is to go back to getting the intelligence community the funding and the tools that it needs to be able to keep America safe. And this summer we didn't do that. We took it away from the NSA. It was a bad decision by the president, bad by those in the Senate who voted for it. And if I'm president, we'll make our intelligence community strong, and we won't have to keep everybody out. We're just going to keep the bad folks out and make sure they don't harm us.
Thank you, sir. Senator Rubio, where do you stand?
Well, first of all, let's understand why we're even having this debate and why, Donald's tapped into some of that anger that's out there about this whole issue, because this president has consistently underestimated the threat of ISIS. If you listen to the State of the Union the other night, he described them as a bunch of guys with long beards on the back of a pickup truck. They are much more than that. This is a group of people that enslaves women and sells them as brides. This is a group of people that burns people in cages, that is conducting genocide against Christians and Yazidis and others in the region. This is not some small-scale group. They are radicalizing people here in the United States. They're conducting attacks around the world. So you know what needs to happen? It's a very simple equation, and it's going to happen when I'm president. If we do not know who you are, and we do not know why you are coming, when I am president, you are not getting into the United States of America.
Senator Cruz, where do you stand? Senator Cruz.
I understand why Donald made the comments he did, and I understand why Americans are feeling frustrated and scared and angry when we have a president who refuses to acknowledge the threat we face, and even worse, who acts as an apologist for radical Islamic terrorism. But I think what we need is a commander-in-chief who is focused like a laser on keeping this country safe and on defeating radical Islamic terrorism. What should we do? First, we should pass the Expatriate Terrorist Act, legislation I've introduced that says if an American goes and joins ISIS and wages jihad against America, that you forfeit your citizenship and you cannot come in on a passport. And secondly, we should pass the legislation that I've introduced that suspends all refugees from nations that ISIS or al-Qaeda control significant territory. Just last week, we saw 2 Iraqi refugees vetted using the same process the president says will work, that were arrested for being alleged ISIS terrorists. If I am elected president, we will not let in refugees from countries controlled by ISIS or al-Qaeda. And when it comes to ISIS, we will not weaken them. We will not degrade them. We will utterly and completely destroy ISIS.
Dr. Carson, where do you stand? Do you agree with Mr. Trump?
Well, first of all, recognize it is a substantial problem, but like all of our problems, there isn't a single one that can't be solved, that cannot be solved with common sense if you remove the ego and the politics. And clearly what we need to do is get a group of experts together, including people from other countries, some of our friends from Israel, who've had experience screening these people, and come up with some new guidelines for immigration and for visas for people who are coming into this country. That's the thing that obviously makes sense. We can do that. And as far as the Syrians are concerned, Al-Saqqa province, perfect place. They have infrastructure. All we need to do is protect them. They'll be in their own country. And that's what they told me when I was in Jordan in November. Let's listen to them, and let's not listen to our politicians.
So it should be clear that both of you do not agree with Mr.
So are we going to ban Muslims from India, from Indonesia, from countries that are our strong allies that we need to build better relationships with? Of course not. What we need to do is destroy ISIS. I laid out a plan at the Citadel to do just that. And it starts with creating a no-fly zone and safe zones to make sure refugees are there. We need to lead a force, a Sunni-led force, inside of Syria. We need to embed with the Iraqi military. We need to arm the Kurds directly. We need to reestablish the relationships with the Sunnis. And we need the lawyers off the back of the warfighters. That's how you solve the problem. You don't solve it by big talk where you're banning all Muslims and making it harder for us to build the kind of coalition for us to be successful.
Thank you, Governor.